ever thought about rapping about me?
Oh, you want me to?
Yeah.
Okay. You're a fashionista, beauty straight out of a soap opera. So powerful, nobody can stop you. You're ambitious and vicious, and only sometimes your style misses. But not like that. I got your back. We're a pack, Gigi. And this next match, it's gonna be easy.
I gotta tell you, that sounds awful.
You know, and we all have our 15 minutes of fame, and I'd like to take a couple of my 15 minutes to talk about the rights and the wrongs in the world of professional wrestling.
And it is for the WWE Championship.
This match is for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship.
The World Heavyweight Championship.
The match and new NWA Heavyweight Champion of the world.
We appreciate you guys coming out and taking your time to support women's wrestling in America.
This match is for the AWA World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling Podcast. This is your host, Mr. Green, and thank you so much for tuning in. We have another week and another episode of WOW, along with some other tidbits and notes and news that may be floating around the wrestling sphere. Things that, just to kind of talk about and just open up the discussion, if you will. I might as well just get into it. I was going to kind of find some appropriate place to put this question, but I don't think there's any time like the present. It had been brought up to me. I was already aware of it, but it had been brought up to me because I guess this was new for a coworker of mine. That there are wrestlers who utilize OnlyFans. Surprise. Let's not be, totally shocked here. I clearly wasn't, but this was shocking for him, and it was shocking for him on the basis of, well, I would think that to get paid enough. So they're women on national television, and it's like, look, bro, I wish I could say that it was a little different. I really do. But the fact of the matter is that you have a lot of people who just do not make the money that they're perceived of making being on television. A couple of months ago, I was asked to talk about Paige Van Zandt with a online reporter for The Sun. She was trying to put together an article, found me, and wanted to know if I had any opinions about it and how Paige is presented and so on and so forth. The reason I bring her up is because she was probably the most public person that I can think of off the top of my head, and she does qualify. She was signed to AEW, but even through that, she did not have massive income either from mixed martial arts or allegedly from AEW. I find that somewhat hard to believe since Tony Khan seemingly overpays a lot of people, but that's beside the point. The point here being is that she's been public. Paige Van Zandt has been public about the fact that she made more on OnlyFans than she ever made fighting. This is not an issue singled out towards wrestling, by the way. Let's call a spade here. This is just something that is common across the board. You cannot, and when we use the title OnlyFans, there are several different outlets and venues that a lot of these ladies use. As we know, Mandy Rose was part of that, but she didn't use OnlyFans. She used a service similar to OnlyFans where she could offer up exclusive content, and we all know that there is never going to be a shortage of thirsty men out there who are willing to pay in order to see portions of the anatomy of these women that they've fascinated over, to any amount of money. Well, I shouldn't say any amount of money, but you get what I'm saying. They are willing to pay. There are a lot of men out there that's willing to pay. And really, can we fault these ladies that have gone onto it? I mean, there are several. Jessica Havoc. Anna Varlow. I think that's her first. I can't remember her first name off the top of my head right now. I don't know why I just drew a blank there. But we those are two on the indies. Mandy Rose, Paige Van Zandt, who was in fought at the highest level, still did not get that kind of money. And like I said, this isn't just centered towards female wrestlers. I read a story sometime back where there was a teacher who was on, I'm sure people have heard some variation of this one way or the other, but a teacher that was on OnlyFans who's basically quit their job because financially there was no reason for them to stay as a teacher, even though they went to school for it, even though that was their passion in life. When I read the article, a teacher in Missouri had to leave, or she was put on leave once administrators found out that she had an OnlyFans side job. But she made it clear that she would not be able to get the money that she needed to cover her bills, her loans, her debt, and things like that. She said, and this is according to the article, mind you, that it would have taken her 24 years, that she calculated, 24 years to take care of all of the bills, debt, etc. that she had on her under her teaching salary, whereas she was able to do it with OnlyFans inside of a year. It's hard to tell people to turn that down. It's hard to tell people you should not do this. How do you even justify coming to somebody, male or female? But we know that is most likely going to be female. But how do you even justify telling somebody, well, you need to quit? That woman is living the American dream. She got rid of all her debt. All of her debt. I wish I could do that right now. I don't have the assets for it. If I did, I probably would be on OnlyFans. But you get the point here. I used the teacher as the example, but you get the point. And this was the crux of the conversation that he and I had. How much can you really fault them for that? Especially when you hear these circumstances. I know the common thread there is that, well, they're just doing it because they're lazy and they can get more money if they just show their body and this, that, and the other. I'm sure that exists. But then you have cases like this where you have money essentially flashing you in the face that if I show some boob, and I have, let's say, 500,000 subscribers, and they subscribe to me for $2 a month, that's $1 million. I'm sure OnlyFans gets their cut, but you understand what I'm saying. If you're Mandy Rose or you're Paige Van Zandt and you've had the benefit of television to put your face out there, it's enough when you're just an attractive female, because you will be found if that is the case. What you do from that point is your business. Okay? I'm not advocating nor condoning this the path that some of these ladies have taken. I absolutely understand the path that some of these ladies have taken for that reason. Yes, did my coworker have a point that they should not be having to do this, having been on national television? Yeah, they shouldn't have to, but the reality is that they do, and this is not a new problem. We saw or heard this story, almost 20 years ago, when one of the knockouts in Impact Wrestling, well, soon to be TNA again, was caught working at a sunglass hut because she did not earn a living wage working a national wrestling promotion. Is it fair of me to point out that TNA? I don't know, because I don't know what their finances were at that time. They clearly had enough money to pay somebody. They just didn't pay. I believe it was Taylor Wilde that had that report on her. It was either Taylor Wilde or Madison Rain. I believe it was Taylor Wilde. And I can only imagine how embarrassing that was for somebody to recognize her working at the sunglass hut when they might have seen her on the pay-per-view a day prior. Who knows? But the end result is that this is going to happen. Now, it's probably not going to happen in WWE because they're going to keep tighter reins on that, and they've already made an example of Mandy Rose. So I doubt that you're going to get much of it there. Outside of that, AEW, Impact, MLW, women on the indies, for that matter, some MMA ladies. Is it going to be shocking that they're on there? Not at all. Should they be on there? Maybe. And for that matter, who am I to judge it? You know, who am I to judge that they used an OnlyFans? That they made extra money that way? They should not have to do it. I will repeat his talking point. They should not have to. But the reality is that it's going to occur. It does exist. They are going to have to do it the same way that this teacher in Missouri did it. I think I had it down in my notes. Where is it? Brianna Kopich. I think I'm saying her name right. That, like I said, this is not something indicative or exclusively focused on pro wrestling women. This is something that is just across the board. It is hard enough to make, and I don't want to go off into finances, so I'll say this and I'll move on. It's hard enough to make money to support yourself in today's environment just in general. If you're going to a promotion that does not have millions of dollars or multi-millions of dollars or billions of dollars for that matter, you likely could walk up into that situation. Whether you choose to go that route or not, that's a different issue. We've seen other platforms be used. Twitch gets used oftentimes. OnlyFans gets used oftentimes. The end result there is that this has turned almost into a necessity, which is why I don't fault it. I mean, there's women, if I want to rope this into WoW, there's women that have wrestled on WoW currently that don't have an OnlyFans, but they do custom wrestling, which is like a step underneath OnlyFans. Wrestle barefoot, wrestle in oil, wrestle, they do the custom wrestling because those things pay. And they pay a fair amount. They shouldn't have to, but they're gonna. Because the money is there. And it's almost like turning away a pile of money that is sitting on the table. So I have no problem with it. I would hope that most of the people that support them do not have a problem with it. I'm not saying you need to go out and sign up to their OnlyFans. No, you don't need to do that. If you do, that's your business as well. But in today's environment, for those that have done it, I would hope that they haven't gone too far. But if they do, that's on them. And yeah, I understand and I recognize that there are a lot of ladies that do this because the pay scale is a little bit unbalanced. There's nothing real I can say about that. But it's hard enough on the indies. It's probably harder if you're a lady, and trying to earn a living from it. And that has turned into one of the ways that they're able to make a living. We also have to talk about, and I'm going to jumping off of the OnlyFans thing now. Jade Cargil. I said when she was announced to go into WWE, I can't remember if I did it on the podcast or not, that she probably needs to go to NXT first. I didn't think that she would because they made such a big deal about her. But I said she probably needs to be in NXT. She needs to go and learn, if nothing else, learn the WWE style. I had so many people. No, she doesn't need to go in NXT. Jade Cargil needs to go right to the main roster. She needs to go right. She needs to be in there with Charlotte Flair. She's good. She can go wrestle her. She needs to wrestle against Becky Lynch. She needs to wrestle against Bayley and Io Sky and Asuka and Rhea Ripley. She needs to be up there with them. Well, not according to Paul Levesque, Triple H. This is something I don't understand how other people couldn't see it, quite frankly. But this is something that the world should have seen. She is not ready to be on anybody's main roster other than AEW, and they did her a disservice by putting her where she was. The same. Now, I want to say this about Tony Khan. The same way I said that this is not a problem indicative to just women wrestlers, that's not a problem just indicative to him. Those things have happened, and they've happened for a long time in the wrestling business when somebody, a promoter, falls in love with the body, and then they build around that. Vince McMahon has done it. Multiple people in WCW have done it. Other promoters across the territories have done it. This is not a problem exclusive to Tony Khan. That said, the quote that Triple H, Paul Levesque, gave during the press when they were asked about Jade Cargil was this: I have no less belief in her now than I did then. It's interesting. When she came in, we talked about her development and where she would land. I wanted to make sure that no matter what is thrown at Jade Cargil, she's ready. And at no fault of her own, I think she was limited in that. So the idea is we exposed her. We made her be seen. People are understanding, and they are waiting, and they are excited for her to come. When she does, it will be massive. He has a very nice way of saying that she isn't ready yet. And I'm pretty sure that of course, he doesn't want to get up there and talk down on the investment that they just purchased, because she's an investment. Like every other wrestler that they put a bunch of money behind their investments. So, of course, he should not ever get in front of anybody's microphone or camera and start down talking what they say. He shouldn't be up there like, oh, yeah, she's terrible. They did a horrible job in training her. We got to start all over from scratch. And, of course, he's not going to say that. But it is now understood that she isn't ready to do a WWE style match. This is not a problem that used to exist largely in the old days, the Federation years, the territories. Because by the time you got to the WWE, for the most part, you were a pretty polished act. By the time Kurt Hennig got to WWE, he had been in AEW for AEW. Okay, let's try that again. By the time Kurt Hennig got to the WWE or WWF at the time, he had been in AWA for a number of years. He had traveled around. He had wrestled in Memphis. He had gotten used to what he was supposed to do. He had started to understand who Kurt Hennig is. You can say the same thing about Ravishing Rick Rude. He went a long route around. Wrestling up in the Midwest, going to Memphis, going to WCCW, going to the NWA, going to the WWF. By the time he got there, he still was working on himself just a little bit, but he had gotten most of what Ravishing Rick Rude was down. DiBiase, same thing. You can go down the line with most of those people. They were polished acts by the time they got to where they were going. Jade Cargil was a trainee who was thrown onto national television, and she was smashed over top of everybody that they put in her, except for the last, 2 matches of her career there. There's no way that you can look at that and say that she was ready for this, especially in an environment where they're going to expect you to be able to do 15, 20 minutes and do a good 15 to 20 minutes. They're going to want to put her in there with Charlotte, but she's probably not ready for that. They're going to want to put her in there with Becky Lynch, but she's probably not ready for that, and others. For that same reason. This is exactly what happened to Bill Goldberg. Him, and to no fault of his own, and I'll say the same thing about Jade, to no fault of her own. They were placed in positions that they were taken care of in their initial company, and they were protected in their initial company. But when they left and they went to the WWE, in Goldberg's case, he was exposed. He couldn't have a good 20-minute match. People did not want to see him sell for 20 minutes. They had already made Goldberg who he was in WCW, and they didn't want that to change. And then when he was in WWE, it just didn't work out well. The matches with nobody talks about the matches that Goldberg had with The Rock or Chris Jericho or Triple H or Kane. You know, they just don't, because it wasn't him. It wasn't the guy that people knew. It wasn't the guy that people wanted to cheer for. The only difference here is that Jade Cargil gets a pass. She is going to have the opportunity to go down to that developmental and learn. Now, whether she wants to have a big head about it, I mean, because I seen the tweet where she's like, well, I'll make my debut on my time. I'm going to assume that she's in character saying that. But I know she's had a bit of an ego in there because she has no reason not to. She has been protected and treated as a big star from the moment that she got into the wrestling business, more or less. Question now is, how much of this will she take seriously, and how good can she be? Not how good she was, but how good can she be? Conversely, or I should say, as a side note, this is a cautionary tale for WoW. Not that I expect them to go sending their talent out the bubble there, but I know that it has been said that Jeannie Buss would like to travel with WoW. When you travel, you're dealing with different audiences. You know, it's not going to be the same thing as having that solid once every 3 month WoW audience that's coming there to see a TV show be taped. Some of them are, some of those luxuries that they have in that building will be lost if they take it out on the road, because there's a lot of girls there who aren't prepared for it. I will make that public now. There's girls on that roster who are not prepared for it. Yeah, there's plenty of them that are. You could look at Jessie Jones. You could probably look at Siren and Holodead. You could probably look at Exile for what good that team may be for the next couple of weeks, or who knows, before they split, if they do. You could probably look at others, Princess Aussie, Penelope Pink, Vicky Lynn McCoy, and those are the ones that come off the top of my head. They could probably go and give you a good 15 minutes. But then you look at the ones who are only there in wrestling because it's WoW. Goldie Collins, Katrina Jinx, The Beast. I don't think any one of them could do past 5 minutes. Especially not if they weren't told to do it, if they weren't told how to do it ahead of time. It is a cautionary tale. What we are seeing with Jade Cargil now is the cautionary tale that WoW needs to take today. Because if they ever do travel, they ever get on the road, and they ever find themselves experienced with other fans, it could be, and I'll say could, a rude awakening for them. I have an audio track on one of these podcasts right now where somebody was in that audience while one of them was talking, and he tried to get a what chant going on, a what chant. In a WoW audience, it probably wouldn't work, and it didn't work because nobody picked up on it. You could just hear him off in the background. What? Let that happen out into a wrestling town where other wrestling fans are coming, and then they get bored and they decide to do that, just to screw with the person cutting the promo. Will the Beast be able to pivot or handle that without getting frustrated? Don't know. Probably not. That's my guess. But again, time will tell. If they ever hit the road, time will tell. I should probably make another few notes here. One, it had come to my attention when I was going through unfinished angles and storylines. It had come to my attention that the audio that I used in the previous episode 63's review, and it has Tiki Charmorro talking to the Tonga Twins like, hey, I got your back. And it had come to me that she also says, I know you didn't want my good luck charm. You didn't need it, but I'm here to offer you good luck anyway. I was like, when I listened to that, I was like, what good luck charm? When did that happen? When did she even attempt to give them anything? I don't know how I missed that the first go round, but I did. And it's another one of these cases of things that took place on this show that didn't actually take place on the show. And they have to talk it up in order for you to understand that, you know, this happened. I was like, I don't know what good luck charm she is even remotely talking about. But that's wild for you. As of this recording, we are, I'll say about 6 weeks into certain spots and stories and angles not going any further. One of which, Candy Crush and her, did you see my match? Did you see my match with Princess Aussie? We haven't heard about that since October 14th. October 14th. As I'm recording this, is December 8th. That's been a long time. And I'm sure that while I was just expecting people just to pick back up when they actually do get to it, because I can never discount, no matter how late they are, that they'll get back to it. But this is absurd that it would take this long to even mention it. It's like it just faded away. That was the last time we heard anything about it. The other thing was Sophia Lopez giving the Beast this flash drive. Happened in the same episode. Air date October 14th. We've not heard anything about that since then. You see where I'm going with these things? I know that doing marathon tapings is very difficult. And trying to maintain the continuity is not as easy as it may be thought of being. But I don't know how they got to do a better job, but they've got to do a better job with that. They have to. They got to do a better job with that. It's only so long that you can have this amount of continuity error and not get on people's nerves. The kids aren't going to care because they're going to accept whatever it is that they're fed. But this should be cleaned up. One way or the other, this should be cleaned up. Since we are already talking about, well, let's get into the actual meat of the program, shall we? Because I think it's about due. So this is episode 64 that we're going over here. The air date was December the 2nd. The episode number that WoW was going to go by is going to be 212. The title, Truck Stop Justice. Again, I don't name these things. You know, they are produced and named by the individuals at WoW. So, at the beginning of the show, we see Princess Aussie come out to cut a promo. That is immediately interrupted by Jessie Jones. I don't have a problem with this because Jessie Jones is good at what she does. Princess Aussie isn't bad at cutting a promo, but she has not cut one to my satisfaction that didn't get clipped off or take a nosedive because of the context of things that she said in it. But anyway, she does not really speak here. Jessie Jones essentially is demanding the title shot. Now, one of the things that gets me here is that I don't know what path David McLane is lying in. Because Jessie Jones, for all intents and purposes, is supposed to be a babyface. Maybe she's a hard babyface, but she's a babyface. But then you have David McLane actively resisting or contradicting the things that she says on purpose. Like, Penelope Pink gets a title shot. He'll sit back there. Well, she was a former champion. Tormenta gets a title shot. Well, she was a Mexican champion. Things that really have no weight or bearing theoretically in who gets a title shot. Jessie Jones, as a personality on this show, has all the reasoning in the world. Tormenta had multiple title shots. She's failed. Penelope Pink had her title shot in rematch, and she failed. The only people that deserve a title match in her eyes are the Beast, because the Beast never lost it, and that makes sense. And she says here herself, and she goes, with all due respect, I have a better win-loss record than everybody going in that match, including you, pointing at Princess Aussie, who is the champion. All of that makes absolute sense. What doesn't make sense is that David McLane decides that she has to earn her way into the match, whereas everybody else is just kind of slotted into it. Now, we find that out a little bit later on, but everybody else is just slotted into the match. For whatever reason, Jessie Jones is the only one that has to earn a spot. Now, again, keep in mind that what do they call it? Championship challenge that Princess Aussie presented, but she had no idea what it was supposed to be, and Dave McLane had to figure it out. Princess Aussie, of course, is going to be in this because she's the champion. The Beast is in this because she is a former champion who didn't lose. Penelope Pink gets another title shot, and then Tormenta gets another title shot, which seems to go against the entire grain of what Jessie Jones and the point behind this championship challenge match was made for in the first place. People who didn't get a title shot to get another title shot. But you have the same two people who's getting. Three of these people here are the people who are going to get a title shot anyway. So I'm not really understanding the point behind this championship challenge. It doesn't make a lot of sense. When you're looking at it in those terms, the entire reason that they talked you up about, well, Princess Aussie felt like no one gave her a shot, so she wants to give a shot to everybody. Well, these are the same people who had a title shot. And, well, let me just finish up with a review of this segment first. This is a good promo from Jessie Jones. She always does a good promo. Not really sure whether she's doing babyface with, or heel. It comes off to me like a babyface with a little bit of heel bite. Ozzy said much of nothing. This is a fine promo that is offset by commentary. Again, having David McLane sit there and justify why Tormenta gets in there and why Penelope Pink gets in there when Jessie Jones is clearly calling out the fault and the logic right there in the show. And then he says her winning streak has not been the same since she's come back. I was like, how is a winning streak not the same? You're either winning or you're not. That doesn't make any sense. How is this winning streak any different? Either you have a winning streak or you don't. What has changed here? She didn't lose. Doesn't make any sense. This entire thing, and getting back to what I just skipped, I don't mind Princess Aussie as the babyface champion wanting to give match opportunities to other people. That I really have no problem with. She's not the first babyface champion in history to do it. She's not going to be last. Where I do have the problem is along with the things that I just said that didn't make any sense. Like Jessie Jones having to earn a title shot when she's undefeated. She's undefeated. Why would she have to earn a shot? Why would she have to win one more time in order to get into this? When she hasn't lost by their own count in over like 2 or 3 years. If you're compiling all of the stuff that they did with the hiatuses included, why would she need to earn a title shot? But the thing that gets me more than that is why is Princess Aussie even encouraging this match? It's one thing for the babyface to say, hey, I want to give Jessie Jones a title shot. Oh, I want to give the Beast a title shot. Oh, I want to give Adriana Gambino a title shot. She hasn't gotten one. Whatever. It's one thing to say that. To voluntarily get into a multi-person match, well, very likely she doesn't have to get beat to lose the championship anyway, is like the height of wrestler stupidity. If she was forced into it, that's one thing. But she literally came to the ring and gave a vague enough idea that it landed her in this. If she goes into that match and she is beaten, she has no one to blame but herself for the dumb actions that she has taken. We move on to this next segment. BK Rhythm and Gigi Gianni having a conversation at the bottom of the Wow Steps. That's what we have to call them, the Wow Steps, because, people always have to have these conversations at the bottom of the steps. Don't know why. I mean, I thought they had a locker room. They did at one point, but apparently that's not a good enough place to talk about whatever you're doing. This is just a video with the Brat Pack. It's nothing really important. You could take this as a character build with BK kind of putting down bars for Gianni for whatever her bars are worth. But still, that's all this is for. Doesn't really serve much purpose to it besides that. It's fine, but it's just a character building moment, I guess. Next segment, Spring Break 24/7 versus the Brat Pack. This is where, oddly enough, Stephen Dickey acknowledges that Spring Break 24/7 needs a win. I was shocked that he even said it. But, just getting through the match, the heat here is on Sandy Shore. The Spring Break 24/7 start off fine, but she takes most of the punishment in the match as the Brat Pack cut her off. This is a fine tag team match, albeit there's nothing there to really root for or root against. This is a cold match. It doesn't have anything behind it. The most that you got as far as adding anything of any intrigue to it is that the Brat Pack had a vignette preceding the match. That's about it. Didn't really have much else to it. The Spring Break 24/7 really did not do much either. They didn't speak. And they more or less are just taking the same road that they've always taken. They're just there to take the beating. So in any case, like we said, Sandy Shore took the bulk of this. She finally does make the hot tag, to Crystal Rose. Comes in, does the cleanup, tags Sandy Shore back in, for a little too soon, in wrestling logic. But it didn't last. Sandy Shore tags back out. Crystal Waters tags back in. And then this is where the show kind of, I shouldn't say the show, the match meets its end. Gianni comes back in, stops the pinfall on her partner, BK Rhythm. Sandy Shore comes in. She takes a great bump against the post. She took a great bump. Gianni tosses her through the top and middle ropes to where her body hits the post. And Shore just basically spun out in the air and just hit the floor. So it was a great bump. I mean, look, I'm sure Spring Break 24/7 understand that their role is to make the opposite team look good, and they did. Gianni hoists Crystal Waters up for a power slam. BK Rhythm comes in with a DDT power slam combination. I don't know if they want to continue that. I don't like the look of that. I mean, in theory, it sounds good, but that just sounds like a neck break waiting to happen. I don't know if I would. I don't know if I would continue on with that. But it was a nice win with power slam DDT combo. Clean win for the heels. That was it. I did write down here, have we heard Crystal Waters and Sandy Shore speak before? And I put a question mark there. But I also added in a note, if they're a job team, it won't matter. I was just curious if they had actually said anything on the show. But if they're only there to do the job, leave them be. Leave them where they are. It'll be fine. The next segment is Team Spirit's worldwide tryout in the basement. You know, I'm not entirely sure why they called this a worldwide tryout when they had no intentions of illustrating any other location other than the same damn location that they're always in. It just seems silly. They're like, well, this is a worldwide search for all of 6 people that they have in this baby. I don't even think they rotated the faces out. It wasn't that important for me to make note of who was in the tryout thing, but if I wanted this to look bigger, I would have at least shot on location someplace. And we know that they're willing to shoot on location. They've done it all the time. Why now, when it could be useful to you, that you choose to work against that? It could have just been a hotel room in, downtown LA, or they could have gotten a set, or they could have, rented out some other location and said it was something else. These are ideas that I said the previous time that they brought up this worldwide search. And it just, for the sake of TV, they could have doctored it up. She's in Chicago this week, or have her shoot off of a phone so that it looks different than the rest of the show. Just anything to give that some level of credibility, but that's neither here nor there. Is done. This is played up completely for comedy, and of course, she's auditioning people who are clearly untalented and uncoordinated and just dare to be goofy and silly, and so she can do the same thing that she's been doing. Like I've likened the Team Spirit thing to old comedy duos, and when they had the 3 of them, I likened it to the Three Stooges. But they're back to being a Laurel and Hardy or Abbott and Costello, whatever comedy duo that you can think of. They had a straight man and an idiot. That's what you got. You can say the Wayans brothers. Coach Campanelli is Sean, and I was about to say Randy Rara, but she's not there. But Ariel Sky is Marlon. She's the idiot. And she's just there to be the foil or whatever for Campanelli. As I said, this is a comedy segment that it has no bearing on anything. Next segment. It was a match. It's Gloria Glitter versus Chantilly Chella. I can recall myself saying that if you are a commentator, you probably want to be the voice that is trusted. You want to have credibility behind the things that you say. This is one of those cases like, that the commentators drag it down, the continuity drag the show down, the things that they do around the matches drag the show down. This is probably not enough to say it's dragging it. Maybe I'm being too unfair there. But he shouldn't make statements like this. This could be a 60-minute classic. This is like the third or fourth time that they said something ridiculous like this. Well, this could go all night. Now, in no point in the history of WoW have they had a match that exceeded 10 minutes on TV. I'll go so far. Let's just go on the safe side and say 12 to 13. 15 if you're going to count the pay-per-view. But at no point in there, the entirety of this company's existence. Now, keep this in mind. Just think about this. They were created in 2001. It's 2023 now. Now, granted, there were massive hiatuses in between that. But at no point through its existence have they ever had a match that exceeded 15 minutes. And I'm being generous to say 15 minutes. And when I even say that, you could probably count on one hand how many got to that point. Maybe two. Maybe two. What in the WoW's history would give him any reason to believe that? Or anybody else for that matter. When they said that about other wrestlers years ago, and you could probably take your pick, Botwinkle, Flair, Wyndham, Kurt Angle, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, whoever, if they ever said anything close to these guys are capable of going all night, it's because they showed that already. They had a match that they probably went 15, 20, 30, 40 minutes or so. No one here has done anything within a hair of that. They haven't done anything within arm's reach of it. They haven't done anything within a mile of that. So why he would sit and say something that absurd? And that's not to say that they couldn't. It's just the WoW audience have not seen that. It would be a different thing if, let's say, Gloria Glitter and Chantilly Chella were on match 2, having followed going to a time limit for, straight 15 or whatever the case may be. But then they don't even apply like they act like time limits don't exist there. Like this could take up the entire show. Really? Do you actually think that it could take up the entire show? Like I said, there's no example of this of anybody in the entire history of WoW ever doing this. So that's not something that I would suggest that Stephen Dickey does. This match is the same thing that you get out of any Chantilly Chella match, or for the few times that we've seen Gloria Glitter is basically the same thing. She comes out, she does her aerobics or jazzercise or whatever the heck. I mean, she has a microphone that she keeps on her face that we don't really hear her say anything through. So I'm not entirely sure what the point of that is either. But she comes out, she's holding the pole, she's doing the whole exercise deal. Chantilly Chella comes out, does her thing with the cape, gets up on the apron, tosses it towards David McLane. Of course, we got to toss the camera to shoot him as he puts the cape on somebody else. I suppose nothing's wrong with that. It could probably use a little less David McLane there, but hey, that's his moment to shine. He likes to have the cape thrown on him. And the match is fine. No issues with the match here. They worked really hard to try and make a cold match worth people sitting through and watching. And that's all this was. This was a cold match. I will say that I do like they have given Glitter, some level of credibility, and she deserves that. I know she was kind of brought in with the non-wrestling crowd like Katarina Jinx and Goldie Collins, but Gloria Glitter, Delilah Doom, deserves a little bit more effort. They have seemingly given her that. She hasn't been beaten into powder or anything of that nature. So I am not upset with this at all. Like I said, other than the fact that it is a cold match and they had to work hard to get the audience into it. But that aside, they did a great job here. Chella and Gloria Glitter did a great job of giving a match that people could be legitimately entertained by, without having any pretense, without having any story, without having anything that would carry you into this. The match in and of itself, if you're a wrestling fan, it works. It really worked when Chantilly Chella brought like almost like a spin heel kick, even though she didn't catch her with her heel. She caught her with like the inside of her knee and her shin to the side of Gloria Glitter's head. But it looked good. It looked great that she was able to do that and get that hook kick around her like that. The match, like I said, fine. Chella has her place in WoW, and every time I see a match like this, it pretty much shows. She's there to help other people have a good match and have them look good, and she did that. She did her job. The finish of the match saw Chella try, after the heel kick that I just described, a hook kick, I should say. She didn't actually hit her with the heel. She stood there getting ready to try to nail her with her cutter. Glitter gets up, shoves her off. As Chella comes back with the rebound, she gets caught in the abdomen with a knee. And that sets her up for what most people would commonly refer to as a pedigree, even though it's not a full-on pedigree. In her world, it is aerobic annihilator. So double underhook DDT, basically. But aerobic annihilator is the finisher that they're going to go by. And Gloria Glitter wins. She scores the win, and she moves on. So Glitter has not been buried. Glitter hasn't had to worry about losing every chance her face shows up on the screen. So good on her with that. The next segment is Exodus and Keta Rush going into their match. Exodus, of course, followed by Ice Cold and Genesis, because they're still carrying on this whole nonsense about Exile having problems. The commentators talk about both women having a martial arts MMA background. We really haven't seen a lot of that, but we'll go with it. They really did not use a great deal of MMA or martial arts with them. They did use some, when that came in the form of submissions, but they brought this up to try to put to point across that this is an even ground or something like that. Both ladies have this kind of background and yada yada yada. Surprisingly, David McLane actually talked about WoW existing on a Glory mixed martial arts event. That event, and I say surprisingly because that was a good while ago. But it was a special attraction match that was placed in a Glory event. I'm going to assume that it was part of the pre-show, because there's almost no information about that whatsoever. I mean, I've looked. If anybody else can find it, then let me know. But anytime I've ever looked up, it is on Glory 37. It happened in 2017, not April. Why did I look at my paper, see that it says January, and April comes out of my mouth? Anyway, January 20th, 2017. This is 6 years ago. Okay, from the point that I'm talking right now, this is over 6 years ago. The match that they put on there was Keta Rush defeating Steffi Slays. And as I said, I cannot find any footage of this. I know it happened because I saw the poster when it took place, and I did see a clip several years ago. But outside of that, it's like I can't. I can't find it. And him talking about it only comes across like, do you have this footage? you would think that they would at least have worked it out that they could keep the footage or something like that. No, and it would have been nice. It would have been a nice change of pace to say, hey, look, we had this match from 2017, Keta Rush versus Steffi Slays and Glory, whatever, Glory 37. It would have been nice to have that to back up the claim. But as it is, you just have to take his word for it. I do know that this existed. It did take place. I am, verifying it, although I cannot find any footage that exists to point you towards to watch the match. It just seemingly doesn't exist. But I am surprised that David McLane brought it up, because most things like that, they don't even acknowledge. Even if it is their people, they just don't acknowledge it. This match was presented as a somewhat disputed finish, and I'll get to that in a moment. Because I thought the outcome was fine, but I thought how the road that it took to get to it was a little off. And if you've seen this, you'll know what I'm talking about momentarily. So they start this thing off, and they pretty much are sizing this up as if they were going into a shoot fight to some degree. I mean, they got their fighter stance on, but of course it results or reverts itself into a standard wrestling match, which is why I said I don't know what the MMA factor that they were trying to apply in here was, because it wasn't really utilized all that much. You didn't see a lot of strikes. You did see some submission, but you didn't really see a lot of the stuff going on. It was more of a technical wrestling match than it was an MMA fight. And I think that should have probably been the route that they were going with. It's like, these are two technicians who have MMA background. It probably would have worked just as well. This may be the best match that Keta Rush has had. Quite possibly. Because she, generally speaking, she performs well. But she doesn't get presented as a world beater, nor should she. But she doesn't get presented as a winner either. Exodus, of course, did fine. And then I will reiterate what was brought up to me, is that she does have a background in the Indies. She wrestles outside of WoW, which only goes to solidify the idea that there's a reason that I liked her, and that's probably it, because she performs better than most. There are portions of the match where the timing seems a little off. One of which was there was an exchange that took place at the beginning. A series of roll-throughs from the crucifix position with Keta Rush, and they're going back and forth. They're doing a pin, I pin you, you pin me, until Keta Rush kind of shoves her off and then gets a leg scissors around her. But what happened there is that it took 2 or 3 seconds for her to get there, which made it look like Exodus had to sit there for a while in order for this to be applied. Now, she didn't do anything wrong. It just didn't happen really quick, and it didn't happen fast enough. It made it very evident that she was waiting to get latched onto. So, again, it doesn't hurt the overall match. It just would have helped a little bit if Keta Rush was able to clamp that leg lock or the body scissors in quicker. Not to judge. But it would have been helped a little bit if she got in a little quicker. The end of the match got to where Exodus did a double leg takedown and took Keta to the mat, which I thought was a nice touch, because it didn't come off as, it wasn't clean. And in this case, the takedown not being clean, it worked. I don't think a lot of the fans there really understood what was going on because they were really kind of quiet in this. But I thought that they did a pretty fair job in her doing the takedown and then subsequently getting locked into a submission. I think she got, I forget what they got, a go-go palata. I've always known it as a triangle lock, but I could be wrong. So, for the sake of this, we'll just call it a triangle lock because I don't feel like butchering any words. So, Rush has the lock on her, and they're going through the old, I have a pin on you, meanwhile, you have a submission on me. That is the spot that we're doing here. The problem with this, and again, I don't have a problem with the end result. I just have a problem with how they got there. The problem with this is that it's the referee by himself. This is another one of those cases where I'm like, somebody looks like they got the basic concept of what they were trying to do without understanding how they should get there. So what happens here is that Keta Rush has her shoulders down while still locking in the triangle lock on Exodus. The referee is coming in for the count. He counts down for 3, but I shouldn't say as the 3 comes down. Technically, it was after the 3. I'm sorry to spoil Wild's finish, but the 3 count took place after the 3. Now, I know that's not what they wanted to do because she was like maybe a second off. So what was supposed to happen is that the tap out was supposed to take place simultaneously with the pin. Here's where the issue is. There is no reason for a referee to argue with his own call. The referee counts down the 3 count. But then as soon as that's over with, he's going back and forth like, I don't know. What are you talking about? She tapped out and you got pinned. And he's arguing against his own call, which is stupid. Either you make the call and you stick to it or you get it to continue on, but you don't need to argue against yourself. So he does this. Keta Rush thinks that she won, and then now he's got the confused look on his face like, well, I don't know what happened. Well, she tapped out and you got pinned, and I don't know what the well, sorry. I didn't mean to cuss there. Anyway, I guess I need to mark off where I said that again so I can make sure that I bleep myself out. But anyway, he's going back and forth with that statement. I don't know who did what and how and why. And then another referee comes out. He's arguing, I guess, for or against something, the call. And then they go to the ring announcer / David McLane, and they start doing the same thing there. And Dickie and McLane are like, well, what's going on? Who won? I've never seen anything like this before. So the end is a no contest. Basically, it's declared a draw. What should have happened? Somewhere in this, the referee, who is the ref of record, should have been incapacitated somehow. This is what we've seen a dozen times. Now, neither one of them are big enough to run into this dude and him get knocked out. But if they had a strike where, say, Keta Rush ducked and then Exodus kicked him in the side of the temple, let's just say, to where he's dazed. He's not knocked out, but he's dazed. One of them gets a pin, the other, he doesn't see it because he's still shaking it off. The referee comes from the back. He tries to do the call. She kicks out. Now we pick up from where we left off. They get the triangle lock applied. One's going for the pin, the other's going for the tap. Other ref comes around. One ref's looking at Exodus, the other one's looking at Keta Rush. The one ref calls for the other, and now they got a dispute. Like, wait a minute, she tapped out. No, she didn't. She got pinned. You know, that is what probably should have happened here, rather than one ref who begins doubting his own call, because there's no reason for him to doubt his own call. If you pinned her and you counted her down, then that's it. That's all there is to it. You do not have the referee dispute himself. If he does dispute himself, then you get the match to continue. That is what they've always done. They made the call. I look over. I see a foot on the ropes. I didn't notice this before. Oh, shoot. Now I got to pull your hand down. No, you didn't win. I just noticed the foot's on the rope. The match continues. That's what probably should have taken place rather than doing this. So now they go out and they go back and forth in front of the ring announcer and David McLane. They come to the ultimate conclusion that, well, this match has to be thrown out. It's a draw because this happened simultaneously. Fine with the ending. Did not like how we got there. So what winds up happening here is Keta Rush, after having hearing it being declared a draw, puts her hand out to Exodus. Exodus begrudgingly shakes her hand and walks off, which upsets Genesis. And that leads into another segment following this. Now, before I go into that segment, I would like to say this about the match. Like I said, I really did not have a problem with the match. I thought the finish, other than the execution of the finish, I thought the finish in and of itself was fine. Because, and I doubt that they're going to do this, but because of like, okay, this now would give you something to work from. They just had a draw. Neither one of them was able to succeed over the other. And what allegedly was a battle between two people who are in martial arts. Now, we know Keta Rush is. Not too sure about Exodus, but that's beside the point. This would, if it were me booking this would have been the beginning of a best of series. Whether that be best 2 out of 3, best 3 out of 5, or, you know, WoW audience don't need to go past 3 out of 5. They probably don't need to go past 2 out of 3. But I would have had a best of series. Like, okay, well, look, we're going to come back to this, and we're going to have a match, you know, best 2 out of 3 between Keta Rush and Exodus. That way you give something to the match without having to have this big dragged out story, and the match still has weight without, you know, needing the championship or something like that on the line. But like I said, I doubt that that's going to happen. So the next segment is Exodus and Genesis are having a conversation at the bottom of the steps, at the bottom of the WoW steps again. And Genesis is complaining about the handshake. Like, why would you do that? Come on. So she's being the heel here. Like, I wouldn't shake hands with them, blah, 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 you know, that type of thing. The note that I had here while they were talking to say, where did Ice Cold go? Why are they still having this conversation at the bottom of the steps? Is there no other place in this building that they can have a conversation other than the bottom of the steps? So this feels like Exile is breaking up. This makes me sad because I wanted Exile to be a team. I wanted them to grow. I wanted them to get the championships. But this does not feel like the route that is taken. You know, as a side note, WoW feels a lot like a local indie with high production value. I just, you know, when I was watching the show, I made sure to write that down because I kept hearing them advertise Los Angeles and this, that, and the other. This just feels like a local indie that happens to have a broadcast that goes across the country. It's very Los Angeles centric. Now, you know, despite the fact that they talk about a world's title, it's very, very Los Angeles centric. I just had to bring that up. So anyway, after we get out of the Exile breakup promo, which that's what it feels like, then they go to another promo, which has Lana Star behind a backdrop, which I was happy to see, but I'm like, okay, they clearly have a backdrop. Why aren't they using this? They should use this more often. The backdrop could be justified using over and over again. That's what it's for. It's for an interview segment. But Star cuts a promo on Penelope Pink winning the title back, basically saying that she never lost it in the first place and she should be winning the championship, except all the good heel manager stuff. This is fine. Next segment, Wild begins a video package on how we got to the championship challenge match, which by all accounts looks like a 5-way what to do. Who knows? The history package shows the Beast and her loss. They show Aussie winning. They show everyone in the match. And as I was watching this, that was my note. This seems to be a 5-person match with a different name. Not sure why Jessie Jones has to qualify. As I said at the beginning of this, if it's an open challenge, then why does she need to qualify? Why does she need to qualify? Period. Since she has an undefeated streak that has been brought up like 2 different weeks. What are the rules for this? They haven't established any. And the most important note that I hear is, why would the champion ask for this? Having a match against the Beast, having a match against Jessie Jones, having a match against Tormenta or Penelope Pink, all of those things make absolute sense. Why would you ask for a match that you're going to have to fight against for the people in order for you to survive it? And still, they haven't established the rules for it yet. This is silly and ridiculous on the part of the champion. I'm not talking about the match in of itself, but the champion doing that, this is ridiculous. The main event, Miami's Sweet Heat with Lana Star versus the Mother Truckers. At least the Truckers come off as angry. They charge the ring and they attack. And the ring announcer runs out, which reminds me, I was like, well, why didn't she do that when they had this unsanctioned match? Well, how difficult was it going to be to get out the ring? Because she clearly was capable of doing it. But anyway, this is a normal Mother Trucker match. We start off strong. We separate. Holly Swag becomes the legal person in the ring. She gets beaten up for an inordinate amount of time, and then she tags into her mom, and then clean house. And that's pretty much what this was. I wish I could say that there was a better match or something like that, but, it is what it is. There was a spot that Holly Swag was clearly waiting to, for the next move to be executed. She goes over the top rope, comes out on the apron by the heel side. She's, which one of the Lori was talking to the referee, and Swag is waiting until she gets hit from her opponent. It's regular stuff. I mean, come on. It like I said, it was just a spot that took place there that Holly was waiting on to deliver. It wasn't bad timing. I think the camera angle hurt that more than the wrestlers did, actually, because they took it to a aerial shot so that you could see everybody. When Holly goes over the top rope and then she charges out, I shouldn't say she charges out, Lori charges out to the referee. I don't know why she did that, but assumably to get big rigs so she could distract the ref while they kick Swag off the apron and triple team her out on the floor. And triple team is accurate because Lana Star got her licks in too. Or at least, she had made the effort for it. Swag does well bouncing around for people. Swag is smaller than most of them, so it makes sense that she is the sacrificial lamb that's getting beaten up on and whatnot. But as I said, this is a standard Mother Trucker match. And once Swag got the tag in and Big Rig Betty comes in, that's the cleanup. And that's exactly what she did. She came in, she did the cleanup, didn't bump all that much, which I still believe is probably due to whatever injuries that she had that she initially retired for. But she's back in wrestling full force now. Not just as Big Rig Betty, but she's out as Amazing Maria somewhere. But most of this, she's on her feet. She does her standard shtick. couple of clotheslines, couple of back elbows, a super kick. That there is a somewhat silly indie spot that takes place there where she tosses one of the sisters into the front face lock and then forces her to give her own sister a DDT. And then that move takes out one of the sisters, and now you've got the Mother Truckers doing well, I shouldn't even say the cleanup, but the finish of the match. Big Rig Betty hits a stunner on, I want to say Laurie. I can never get these two right. I can never remember which one's what. Even though they have hair that they have clearly made themselves distinguishable, I should probably do more time or dedicate myself into memorizing it. But anyway, so she gets a quick stunner, which looked awful. And again, I was surprised again. David McLane said it. Now, he might not admit what I mean when I say, because he's like, yeah, you know what, a stunner, it looked terrible. And it did. It looked terrible. I was surprised that he even came close to saying that. But she is a stunner. She goes down. Holly Swag picks her up while lovely Laurie, I think, is on the outside. Lovely Lindsay, whichever one. She's on the outside, and then Swag hits her full Nelson face plant. 1, 2, 3. That's it. They're done. The match is over. The Mother Truckers beat them clean. And sorry, it wasn't a face plant. It was like a STO, using the clothesline as the means to take her down. They got their revenge pretty easily, and it's like I assume the feud is blown off. But this went from problem being created to finish inside of one match. And look, I know that WoW is pretty short term with some of this stuff, but I not only was I surprised that David McLane would make a comment about somebody that executed something badly on the show, or at least saying it was terrible. I don't know what context he was saying it in. But the fact that they went into this match and they not just won, but they won clean as a whistle the first time they got in there with Miami Sweet Heat. Like, I'm not sure how often the Mother Truckers have lost. How are they not the tag team champions at this point? And like they seemingly have beaten up everybody that they've been in the ring with. This main event was underwhelming. It was. It was a fine match, but it was underwhelming. I thought that they would have taken this a little bit further. This was a match built for revenge. And you would think that as good as Miami Sweet Heat has been presented over the last couple of months, I mean, they're 2-time tag team champions for a while. And they haven't lost, very many times. I would have thought that this would have been a little more competitive rather than once the Truckers in there, then that, or once Big Rig Betty's in there, that's it. You're done. And it didn't feel like it went anywhere. It started with them getting beaten up at the end of which match was that? The Las Banditas Miami Sweet Heat match. And this was the comeuppance, and it was a quick, easy comeuppance. It didn't stretch out, didn't drag out, didn't go anywhere else, no disputed finish, no feud. It's just, okay, we're done. Nothing wrong with them being done, but we're done. Where can you go from this? The Mother Truckers beat them and beat them clean. I think we've established who the superior team is now. This just felt standard. Not a lot of back and forth, just felt standard. Where is Adriana Gambino in this upcoming match? She has made statements about her wanting to get a title shot over and over and over again. They built on her having this streak. She's 4-0 for Gambino, and where's my title match? Well, why isn't she in this? I thought the entire purpose of this thing was for people to get the title shot that they never got the chance to have. So why is she not in this? What is the point of this? And they keep talking about, and that's another thing, the main events. Twice now they've talked about, well, fans, this could go all night or this could go longer than the time, and if they do, you're gonna have to go to our YouTube channel to see the rest of the match. Now, I do not have a problem with that statement. What I have a problem with is that if they're going to insist that WoW may go past this allotted time, which they never do, but if they're going to insist that that happens, one of their matches needs to be a sacrificial lamb to support that, rather than him just saying it. One of those matches needs to be a sacrificial lamb that this could happen, or that a match could go beyond a break. They probably don't need to do it all the time, but you can't tell people that, hey, these two could go all night when there's no evidence of that. Or we could go past the hour with our show, or this match could go past the allotted time with our show when there's no evidence of that. And there's no evidence of any of those. This is just talk. That's all it is. It's just talk. So that was the entirety of this show. I mean, it was an underwhelming show. I didn't really find anything all that interesting in it. On its own, in a vacuum, this show is absolutely fine. On its own and in a vacuum, this show is absolutely fine. When you weigh it up against the things that have been built up, when you weigh it up against whatever angles exist, when you weigh it up against storylines that seemingly have not been addressed or concluded or even mentioned, it starts to lose its luster. Like, once you go through those checklists in there, it starts to lose something. And this show lost something with me. It just did not deliver the goods on picking up on anybody's story, on anybody's angle. I didn't care about the Mother Truckers by the time it got down to the Mother Truckers versus Miami Sweet Heat, because I'm expected to have remembered the problems that they had a month ago. I'm expected to remember that beatdown and still maintain this feeling of, oh, she needs to get even. I mean, even the video packages and things like that just did not do this justice. Exodus and Keta Rush was a good match, but it's a cold match. Spring Break 24/7 versus Brat Pack was a good match, but it's a cold match. Gloria Glitter versus Chantilly Chella, same deal. It's a good match, but it's a cold match. And then you got the beginning of it where you had the champion who really didn't say anything, with the challenger who made all the sense in the world but still has to jump through hoops in order to get a title shot. And then a title shot advertised in a challenge match, a 5-person, I don't know why they chose an odd number, but a 5-person challenge match that essentially is doing everything that she was trying not to do. Everybody here that's, getting championship matches over and over and over again, I finally got myself out of them. Apparently not. She hasn't gotten herself out of them yet. She's still dealing with it. She's still dealing with Penelope Pink and Tormenta, and now the Beast is the same people. And they pretty much have pointed the finger at the fact that they got the same people in the main event, in the championship match. Nothing's changed. Anyway, that is the entirety of this episode. There's really not much else to talk about here. I am going to tune in to the next one to see this I hit my microphone stand. To see this 5-person match, the championship challenge, or whatever the heck they want to call it. I am going to tune in for that. I don't have a good feeling about it because they always seem to under-deliver on things that they present. But maybe I will be wrong. Maybe they'll deliver the goods. Maybe it won't be underwhelming. And maybe, just maybe, it'll all make sense. That's what I'm pushing for. That's what I'm waiting for. If you like to support the show, be sure to hit the like button on this if you're on YouTube. If you are listening to this on your greater podcast platforms, please do subscribe. If you do not know where to go for any of these things, you can always go to WPNWrestling.com. That's WPNWrestling.com. It has the focal point, the center of our universe is that website. It's got the 24/7 stream for all old episodes. It's got all the podcast downloads there available for you. A couple of blog posts that are there, a couple of pictures. I need to be doing some updating to that very soon, so stay tuned to that. Also, it's got the links to all other social media platforms, so you can check out Instagram and Facebook and whatever else that you may need to decide that you want to do from there. Also, like I said, you can like this because it helps the algorithm pick us out and other people to find us, so I appreciate that. Your questions, whether that's sent in directly or the comments that you put onto the videos themselves, thank you for those. That helps. I enjoy the interaction. Be sure to go to our community tab, because I've been putting up some questions there so some people can add or answer. Maybe a few little quiz. I need to find some more. I'll probably post up a few more as time goes on. We're looking for new things to entertain the masses. And having a good questionnaire about women's wrestling is one of the things that we've come up with. So on that note, I will end, as I always seem to do, by telling you that this is Mr. Green saying that this is Mr. Green saying so long, and we will see you on the next go round. Take care, everybody. And David McLane, stop it with the honk honk stuff. It's terrible.
Thank you for listening to the WPN's Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling. If you have questions or comments, please contact us via our Facebook or our YouTube channel at the Women's Pro Wrestling Network. If you're new to the WPN, feel free to subscribe to our channel and like our page. We appreciate your support. Thank you again for listening.